Hi everybody, welcome to This Day in History, a look at what happened, events that happened all across this great world of ours, this day in history. For right now, the Earth is the only place we have human beings, but we might be at Mars soon. I've been following a lot with that Falcon heavy rocket that they got going on. Alright, so we got some events that happened this day in history, including in 881. Pope John VIII crowned Charles the Fat, the King of Italy and the Roman Emperor. In 1502, Isabella I issued an edict outlawing Islam in the Crown of Castile, forcing virtually all of her Muslim subjects to become Christians. In 1554, a year after claiming the throne of England for 9 days, the Queen, Lady Jane Grey is beheaded for treason. I'm actually going to Google that, and there you go. Alright, 1689, the Convention Parliament declares that a flight to France in 1688 by James II, the last Roman Catholic British monarch, constitutes an abdication. In 1733, Englishman James Oglethorpe founds Georgia, the 13th colony of the 13 colonies, and its first city of Savannah, then known as Georgia Day. In 1771, Gustav III becomes the King of Sweden. In 1818, Bernardo O'Higgins formally improves the Chilean Declaration of Independence. In 1832, Ecuador annexes the Galapagos Islands. That's such a fun word. In 1855, Michigan State University in East Lansing, Michigan, is established. 1909, the National Association of the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, is founded. In 1909, New Zealand's worst maritime disaster in the 20th century happens when the SS Penguin, an inter-island ferry, sinks and explodes at the entrance of Wellington Harbor. In 1915, Washington, D.C., the first stone of the Lincoln Memorial is put into place. In 1921, Bolsheviks launched a revolt in Georgia as a preliminary to the Red Army invasion of Georgia. 1924, George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue receives its premiere in a concert titled The Experiment in Modern Music in New York by Paul Whiteman and his band, with George Gershwin playing the piano. 1935, the USS Macon, one of the largest helium-filled airships ever created, crashes into the Pacific Ocean and sinks. 1946, World War II, Operation Deadlight ends after scuttling 121 of 154 captured U-boats. So this happened, of course, after the war. 1945 was the end of the war. No, but they still had stuff to do. 1946, African-American United States Army veteran Isaac Woodward is severely beaten by a South Carolina police officer to the point where he loses vision in both eyes. The incident later galvanizes the civil rights movement and inspires Orson Welles' film Touch of Evil. 1947, Christian Dior unveils a new look, helping Paris regain its position as the capital of the fashion world. 1963, production begins on the Gateway Arch in St. Louis, Missouri. Then we go to 1988, Cold War. The 88 Black Sea bumping incident. Yorktown is rammed by a Soviet frigate in the Soviet waters, while Yorktown claims innocent passage. 1990, Carmen Lawrence becomes the first female premier in Australian history as she becomes premier of Western Australia. In 1993, 2-year-old James Bulger is abducted in a shopping center in New Strand by two 10-year-old boys who later torture and murder him. And if you look that up, you find out that they become the youngest murderers on trial as an adult. 1994, 4 thieves break into the National Gallery of Norway and steal Edward Munch's The Scream. 1999, Bill Clinton is acquitted by the Senate in his impeachment trial. In 2002, the trial of Slobodan Milosevic, the former president of Yugoslavia, begins in the United Nations International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. He dies 4 years later. In 2004, the city of San Francisco begins issuing marriage licenses to same-sex couples in response to a directive from Mayor Gavin Newsom. And in 2016, Pope Francis and Patriarch Kirill sign a declaration in the first such meeting of Catholic and Russian Orthodox churches since their split in 1034. There you go, folks. That is this day in history. Now let's see who was born on this day in history. We're actually going to go in reverse this time, I think. Just to kind of change things up. So, Robert Griffin III was born this day in history. Great football player he is. Christina Ricci, born this day in history. Jimmy Conrad. Tara Strong, whose voice is like everywhere in cartoons. Very famous cartoon person. Darren, yeah. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name because I'll screw it up. He directed The Wrestler. It's his birthday. China Phillips, singer from Wilson Phillips. Jim Harris. Happy birthday to Jim Harris today. Arsenio Hall. Happy birthday to Arsenio Hall. Joanna Kearns from the show Growing Pains. Michael McDonald, singer. Very, very famous singer. Did a lot of stuff with Steely Dan. Judy Blume. Happy birthday to Judy Blume. Bill Russell. Happy birthday to Bill Russell. And we are going to find soon the person who is still with us. And it looks like we found it. It is Olivia Hooker. She's still with us here. And she is right now 103 years old. So happy birthday to Olivia. Lauren Green, also born this day in history. Lauren Green, of course, known for Bonanza and a lot of other great TV shows. So happy birthday to Lauren. If he was still with us, he'd be celebrating the same birthday that Olivia is. It's Abraham Lincoln's birthday, folks, which is awesome. It is also Louisa Adams' birthday. That is the 6th First Lady of the United States. So happy birthday to her as well. And then some just deaths that we cover here on the show. Al Jarreau, one of my favorite singers, died this day in history last year. Gary Owens died this day in history, 2015. The victims of the Colgan Air Flight 3407, that's 5 people there that passed away. Tom Landry, very famous football coach of the Dallas Cowboys, died this day in history as well. Of course, Lady Jane Grey, as we covered in the thing, and Anthony II, Patriarch of Constantinople, died this day in history as well. It is Youth Day in Venezuela. It is Sexual and Reproductive Health Awareness Day in Canada. The Right to Freedom and Marry Day in the United States. Georgia Day and Georgia Darwin Day internationally. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks for catching up with us on this day in history on the ScottShow.com. It's a wonderful place.